Welcome back to BeFM Drama's 10-part adaptation of A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the first Sherlock Holmes story. At this crucial halfway point, Holmes and his companion Dr. John Watson, who have only recently met, are deeply involved in the mysterious murder of Enoch J. Drebber, a wealthy American. Drebber was found apparently uninjured in a blood-soaked empty room, with the word Rache, German for revenge, scrawled in blood on the wall. A woman's wedding ring was discovered under the body. Now, deep into their investigation, Holmes, Watson, and Scotland Yard detectives Gregson and Lestrade have discovered that Enoch Drebber's companion and personal secretary, Joseph Stangerson, has also been murdered, stabbed to death in his hotel with that same threatening message, Rache, written in blood above his body. The four of us stood in the sitting room staring at one another, shocked by the news Lestrade had brought us. Stangerson dead too, stabbed, with that sinister Rache written in blood on the wall of his room. I could feel my flesh crawl. There was something so methodical and incomprehensible about this unknown killer. My nerves, which were steady enough on the battlefield, tingled when I thought of it.
The murderer was seen this time. A milk boy happened to walk down the alley behind the hotel. He noticed a ladder raised against the windows. After passing, he looked back and saw a man descending. He was so casual and open, the boy mistook him for a carpenter. He was tall, had a reddish face, and was dressed in a long brown coat. He must have cleaned up. The wash basin was bloody, and he had wiped his knife on the sheets.
Did you find anything in the room which might be a clue?
Nothing. Stangerson had Drebber's purse in his pocket. There were 80-odd pounds in it, but nothing had been taken. Robbery is no motive here. Nothing else was in his pockets but a telegram from Cleveland. It read, J.H. is in Europe.
Absolutely nothing else.
Nothing of importance. A novel on the bed, a pipe on a chair. Oh, and a little pill box on the windowsill with a couple pills in it.
Sherlock Holmes sprang from his chair with an exclamation of delight.
The last link! My case is complete! I have in my hands all the threads which have formed such a tangle. There are some details still left to fill in, but I am as certain of the main facts from the time Drebber left Stangerson to the hotel to the discovery of the body of the latter as if I had seen them with my own eyes. I will give you proof of my knowledge. Could you lay your hand upon those pills?
I have the box here. I took it in the purse and the telegram to place it in evidence at the police station. It's only chance that made me take the pills. I must say I did not attach any importance to them.
Give them here. Now, Dr. Watson, are those ordinary pills?
They certainly are not. Small, round, and pearly gray in color, almost transparent against the light. I should imagine that they are soluble in water.
Precisely so. Now, would you mind going down and fetching that poor ancient devil of a terrier which has been sick so long, which the landlady asked you to put out of its misery yesterday?
I went downstairs and carried the blind, white-haired dog upstairs in my arms. It could hardly breathe, and its glazed eyes showed it was merely days or even hours from death. I set the dog on the floor and joined the three men at the table.
I will now cut one of these pills into two. See here? One half will return to the box for future use. The other half I will place into this wine glass with a teaspoon of water. You see, friends, that it readily dissolves.
This may be very interesting, but I cannot see what it has to do with the death of Mr. Joseph Stangerson.
Patience, friend, patience. It has everything to do with it. I shall now add a little milk to the mixture to make it appealing, and when we present it to the dog, we will see he drinks it up happily.
Sherlock Holmes was so earnest that we all sat in silence, watching the animal drink. But nothing happened. The dog continued to lie stretched out on the cushion, breathing in a pained way, neither better or worse for the drink. Holmes took out his watch, and as minutes passed with no change, an expression of pure disappointment began to appear on his face. He chewed his lip and drummed his fingers on the table. I felt sorry for him, while the two detectives smiled to themselves, pleased to see him for once at a loss for words.
But it can't be a coincidence. It is impossible that it should be a coincidence. The exact pills I suspected in Drebber's case are actually found with Stangerson, but they are harmless. What can it mean? Surely my reasoning cannot have been mistaken. It is impossible. Ah, I have it. The other pill. Cut it in two. Here, dissolve it, add a little milk, and present it to the dog.
The unfortunate creature's tongue seemed hardly to have been moistened in the mixture before it gave a shiver in every limb and lay as rigid and lifeless as if it had been struck by lightning.
By God, it's dead.
I should have more faith. I ought to know by this time that when one fact appears to contradict my reasoning, it must permit an alternative interpretation. Of the 2 pills in that box, one was of the most deadly poison, and the other was entirely harmless. I ought to have known that before I ever saw the box at all.
He turned to look at the 3 of us, standing over the dead dog with fire in his eyes.
All this seems strange to the 3 of you because you failed at the very beginning to see the only real clue that mattered. I had the good fortune to stumble on it, and everything I've seen and done since has confirmed my suspicion. Just a logical sequence to follow. Things which have perplexed you have enlightened me and strengthened my conclusion. It is a mistake to confuse strangeness with mystery. The most common crimes are often the most difficult because they present no unique or special features from which to draw deductions. This murder would have been far more difficult to solve if the body of the victim had simply been found lying in the road without any of these ridiculous accompaniments. The blood, the ring, Rache, which seem to make it so mysterious and strange. These odd details have only made things easier to follow.
Holmes, you're a smart man and you have your methods, I understand. But we need to take this man now. You have thrown out hints here and there, but answer this directly. Can you name the man who did it?
You have said more than once since I came in here that you had all the evidence you require. You must not withhold it. Need I remind you we are police?
Holmes, any delay in arresting this assassin might give him time to commit murder again.
There will be no more murders. Knowing his name is one thing, catching him is another. I expect to do so shortly, but it takes delicate handling. We have a desperate man here. At the first suspicion, he'll change his name and vanish into the city. I don't mean to hurt feelings, but this man and his accomplices are more than a match for the police. If this goes wrong, I'll take the blame, but I need you to trust me.
At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and Wiggins, the chief representative of what Holmes had called his volunteer children's police force, poked his head through the door.
Please, sir, I have the cab downstairs.
Good boy. Why don't you introduce this kind of handcuff at Scotland Yard, Lestrade? It fastens in an instant.
The old pattern is fine, if we have the right hands to put them on.
Very good, Wiggins. Will you ask the cabman to step up and help with my bags?
Yes, sir. Going on a trip, Holmes?
Holmes pulled a small suitcase out from under the sofa and hunched over it, facing away from the door as the cab driver entered the room. Holmes gestured for him without looking back.
Just give me a little help with this buckle, cabman.
The fellow came forward with a sullen, defiant air and reached down to assist. At that instant, there was a sharp click and a jangle of metal as Sherlock Holmes leaped to his feet.
Gentlemen, let me introduce you to Mr. Jefferson Hope, the murderer of Enoch Drebber and Joseph Stangerson.
The whole thing happened in an instant. I have a vivid memory of Holmes's triumphant expression, the cabman's dazed, savage face, and the glittering handcuffs, which had appeared as if by magic on his wrists. For a second, nothing moved. Then, with a roar of fury, the prisoner wrenched himself free from Holmes and hurled himself through the window. The glass shattered, but Gregson, Lestrade, and Holmes were on him like dogs. He was dragged back into the room, but kept up a terrific fight. He was so powerful and fierce that all 4 of us were shaken off again and again. He had a raw, convulsive strength. His face and hands were cut horribly by the glass in the window, but blood loss seemed to have no effect whatsoever on his resistance. It wasn't until Lestrade had half strangled him that his struggle weakened, and even then we felt no safety at all until the 4 of us had pinned his arms and legs. Finally, we rose to our feet, breathless and panting.
We have his cab. I suggest we take a ride to Scotland Yard. Now, gentlemen, that we've reached the end of this little mystery, you're welcome to ask me any questions you like.
And here we are, halfway through our story at the crucial junction where the killer is run to ground, but his motives are still unknown. Tune in next week for the second half of BeFM Drama's premiere radio dramatization of A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I'm your host, Joshua Cornwell, signing off.